Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to connect the dots for you on a pretty wild day of news. You might not think a military strike in South America has anything to do with your stock portfolio, but it does, and a whole lot more. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so it's Monday, January 5th, and in just the last 24 hours, wow, we've got a military intervention that's totally redrawing the global energy map, a market rally that's breaking records, and some huge moves in tech and public health. So, how does all this stuff fit together? Well, let's start with the story that's dominating every headline.
All right, first up, the biggest story of the day really kicked off over the weekend down in South America. We're talking about a super fast, really dramatic U.S. military operation in Venezuela that has just completely flipped the script on the country's leadership.
And President Trump? He didn't beat around the bush at all. He came right out and framed this as an economic move. I mean, the message couldn't be clearer. He's saying our big oil companies are going to go in and lead this massive rebuild of Venezuela's energy infrastructure. You know, the speed of this whole thing is just incredible. Think about it. Just 2 days ago, on January 3rd, U.S. forces hit Caracas and they capture President Maduro. Now, flash forward to today, and he and his wife are already in a New York courtroom pleading not guilty. That's a whirlwind. Okay, so you've got this massive geopolitical earthquake. How did Wall Street react? Well, they didn't just react. They absolutely loved it. The response was immediate, and it was a full-on roar of optimism. Just look at the Dow. It shot up almost 600 points, closing at a brand new all-time high. It's pretty obvious what investors are thinking, right? They're betting that getting the U.S. directly involved in Venezuela, which, remember, has the world's largest oil reserves, is going to be a huge win for the economy. And no surprise here, energy stocks were the ones leading the charge. A company like Chevron, which already has a foothold in Venezuela, was seen as being in the perfect spot to benefit. So investors piled in, and the stock jumped over 5% in a single day. And this is where you really see the ripple effect. It's not just about the companies pulling oil out of the ground, it's also about the ones who will rebuild everything. So companies like Halliburton, the ones who actually build the infrastructure Trump was talking about, their stocks went through the roof, even higher. Even Michael Burry, the guy from The Big Short, he popped up and basically said, "I've been waiting for this." Turns out he's owned stock in Valero for years. Why Valero? Because their refineries are specially built to handle that unique, heavy crude from Venezuela. For him, this is a massive green light. But here's where it gets really interesting. You've got this total split screen view. On one side, you have the market just exploding with excitement, pure euphoria. But on the other side, you've got the industry analysts saying, whoa, hold on a second. They're warning that actually getting that oil production back up is going to take years, and it's full of political landmines. So while Wall Street was popping the champagne, the rest of the world was feeling the shockwaves. And this whole thing is raising some really big, fundamental questions about the rules of the game on the world stage. The way this is being talked about is with a term we haven't heard in a long time: sphere of influence. What's that mean? Well, basically, the U.S. is saying, this is our backyard. It's a throwback almost to the old Monroe Doctrine, a clear signal that the U.S. is reasserting its dominance in the Western Hemisphere. And right away, this sparked the billion-dollar question: did the U.S. just hand a permission slip to other major powers, especially China, to go after their own territorial goals? And man, the experts are totally split on this. You've got one side saying, yes, this is a terrible precedent. You've just given every autocratic regime an excuse. But then the other side says, no. China's plans for Taiwan are a whole different beast. This move in Venezuela isn't going to change their long-term strategy one bit. Okay, let's pivot a bit. Because while all this geopolitical drama was unfolding, the business world wasn't just sitting still. We saw some huge strategic bets being made, especially in AI and in critical resources. First up, the AI arms race. And right now, it's a tale of two completely different philosophies. You've got Anthropic, which is all about being smart and efficient, do more with less. And then you have OpenAI, and their strategy is just brute force scale. They're betting that whoever builds the biggest intelligence factory wins. And they're backing that bet with something like $1.4 trillion in commitments. It's just a staggering number. Meanwhile, China just made a power play in the commodities market that could really shake up supply chains. As you can see here, China exports a ton more silver than it imports. And silver isn't just for jewelry, it's a super critical industrial metal. And here's the kicker. Today, Beijing officially slapped a strategic material label on silver. That means it now has the same strict export controls as those rare earth minerals we're always hearing about. It's a clear signal that China is tightening its grip on a metal that's absolutely essential for solar panels, defense tech, you name it.
All right, let's wrap up by bringing things back home. We've got 3 stories that hit a little closer to the wallet, affecting everything from your health to your finances.
First, in healthcare, this could be a real game changer. You know those super popular weight loss injections like Ozempic and Wegovy? Well, the first pill version just launched today. And check out the price. It starts at $149 a month. That could open the door for millions of people who couldn't access or afford it before. Next, there's a pretty big and definitely controversial policy change happening. The US is officially cutting back the number of universally recommended vaccines for kids. The official word from the HHS Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is that this is about respecting families and trying to rebuild trust in public health. And finally, you know that feeling when the holiday bills start rolling in? Well, financial experts are putting out a reminder with 3 pretty simple steps to get a handle on that debt. First, transfer it to a 0% interest card to stop the bleeding. Second, consolidate your debts into one single lower interest loan. And third, use a budgeting app to actually see where your money's going. So when you step back and look at the day, wow. From a coup in Venezuela that's rattling the oil markets to a pill that could totally change American healthcare, it's just a wild reminder of how fast things can change. We've seen the first tremors today, for sure. But the real question is, which of these stories is going to be the big one? Which one is the earthquake that really shapes our future?